recording the share. When you are finished, please hang up.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to our Motzi Shabbos marathon. We are holding 3 lines from the top of Pei Aleph Amud Aleph. Here, Marshall, who is the big cheese tonight, making a lot of purchases, he buys from Shelley 2 trees. Now the question is, when he buys 2 trees, is that considered already a field of trees, and therefore he gets everything in between and the karka underneath? So that's a machlokes between the Rabbanan and Rameir. So the Tana Kama says, Marshall, if it's only 2 trees, he doesn't get the land underneath it, so that if the tree dies, he just uproots it and he can't plant another tree. He doesn't get the area in between the trees. Rameir Aimer Konakarka. Rameir says that when he buys 2 trees, that's a tree field, and he gets the karka underneath. Now, the Gemara now continues with the opinion of the Rabbanan, the opinion of the Tana Kama, that when Marshall buys the 2 trees, he doesn't get the ground. Now, that has also a leniency. Higdilu, if the branches grow out, lo yeshafe, Shelley cannot insist to trim them because the shade is hurting his field, his crops, because since he didn't give him any land, he was mishabed, he subjugated his own land for the growth of Marshall's trees. Since Marshall only bought the tree, not the ground, what grows from the stump belongs to Marshall. But what grows from the root, that belongs to the owner of the land. That shall balakarka, that belongs to Shelley. If the tree dies, since according to the Tana Kama, Marshall doesn't get any land, ain't like karka, he doesn't have any land, he has to uproot the tree and sayonara. However, Tana Shleisha, if Marshall is flexing his muscles and he buys 3 trees according to everybody, that's already a tree field. So there, Kanakarka, he gets the land, but since he gets the land, he only gets the land. Higdilu, if the branches protrude past the land that he gets, then Yeshafa, then Shelley could trim them down. Both what comes from the trunk and comes from the roots are Marshall, since he gets the ground. And if the tree dies, one of the trees dies, he could replant it. Awesome. So now the Gemara gives us a Bikurim connection. Now I want to remind you that by Bikurim, the first fruits, you bring it to the Beis HaMikdash, it's put by the Mizbeach, and there's a formula to say. And in the formula it says, Reishis Priya Adama Asher Nosata Liya Hashem. Now, the fact that it says Adama Asher Nosata Li, that implies that the one who brings the Bikurim owns the land. So Tanan Hasam, right? If Marshall buys 2 trees from Shelley's property, maybe Veina he brings the Bikurim, but he doesn't say the formula because it's not Adam Asher Nasatali. Because if it's 2 trees, he doesn't get the ground with it. Rameir, I'm a maybe Vikari, because Rameir Lishita, so that says he does get the ground with it. I'm Rabbi Yehuda, I'm a Shmuel, but now Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. Mechayev Rameir holds that you're chayev to say the formula even if you brought the fruit from the market, and you don't own the land at all. Mimai, how do we know that? Because otherwise, why does Rameir have to say maybe v'kairei? Midiktani Mishnah Yisera. This would be an extra Mishnah. We know that Rameir holds that with 2 trees you own the land. Michtei tanolei diyesh karka. So pshita the maybe v'kairei. It's obvious that according to Rameir, you would have to say the formula. Elishma, we know the extra Mishnah teaches us mechayev your Rameir apeloi keach peiris minashuk. Even if you buy it from the market. So the Gemara right away asks, but v'aksiv asher tovi me artzecha, which you bring from your land, doesn't that imply that it has to be your land? That's just coming to tell me that we don't bring bikurim from fruit of outside Eretz Yisrael. But v'haksiv admoscha, your land, that's coming l'meutei admas akim, that you don't bring bikurim from land of a guy even in Eretz Yisrael. V'haksiv asher nasatali, it says that you gave me. Doesn't that imply that the land was given to me? Says the Gemara, no, we thank Hashem that He gave us the money, v'zav nebahu. So the Gemara now is floating this idea that Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, that Rameir holds that you have to say the formula even if you buy fruit from the marketplace. However, the Gemara, don't get too attached to this, the Gemara is going to refute this. If you buy 1 tree, remember, Rameir says 2 trees is a tree field. But if Marshall only buys 1 tree, maybe then even according to Rameir, he brings the Bikurim and he doesn't say the formula. So therefore you see clearly that even Rameir holds that you only could say the formula if you own the land. So to Yufta, this is indeed a refutation of what Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, that you make it even if you buy it in the market. But here we have a different problem. If you don't own the land, then why do you bring the Bikurim? What do you mean, Mevi Veina Kaira? The Torah says you only have to bring it if it's Ad Mascha. If it's not your land, why do you bring it? Amalei Reb Shimon ben Eliakim. LeRab Elazar. My time of the Reb Meir be'ilon echad. What's the reason of Reb Meir by 1 tree where he says Mevi Veina Kaira? Or my time of the Rabban b'shnei ilanos where he says Mevi Veina Kaira. Since it's not your land, you shouldn't bring the Bikurim. So Amalai, so he didn't like that he was asked a question that Rabbi Elazar didn't like that he asked him a question that nobody explained. It's like he set him up for embarrassment. Amalai davar sharishonim loy amru baitam, something that the ancients didn't give a reason for. Tishaleni bebeis hamedrash, you ask me publicly in the beis hamedrash kedei levaisheni, in order to embarrass me. How should I know it? I have no Messiah. I'm a rabbi, my kusha. Maybe the reason is because Reb Meir is not sure by 1 tree if it's a tree field. And therefore, since he's not sure, you don't say the formula, but misafik, you bring the Bikurim. Dilma Reb Meir b'ilan echad, svuke misafkele, he's not sure if it's a tree field. Rabbanan b'shnei ilanos, svuke misafkele. Says Gemara, do they have a suffix? Well, Ketani, Rameir says that by 1 tree you don't bring the Bikura, and you don't say the formula, Lefi Shaloi Kana Karka Divrei Rameir. Says, Gemara, you're right, amend it. Ema Shema Loi Kana Karka. So therefore, since you might not own the land when it's 1 tree, you don't say the formula, but you bring the Bikurim because you might own the land. Says, well, but there's a problem. Since if you don't own the land, you can't bring the Bikurim, then how do you bring it into the Azara and put it by the Mizbeach? If it's not Bikurim, you're not allowed to be Mala Chulun Azara. So the Gemara says, "V'leichesh dilma la Bikurim." No, you should suspect that maybe it's not Bikurim because maybe you don't own the land, as we welcome in Jack Silverman. Maybe you don't own the land. The kamayil chulun lazar, and you're bringing in chulun to the azar. Says, well, you're right. You have to do some fancy footwork. Since you're doing it mesafik, we say that in case it's not bikurim, you should be makdishin. Says Gemara, the makdish lu. Says Gemara, but if you're makdishin, then how could the kohen eat it? If it's dedicated to the temple, then how could the kohen v'aboy michlinu? Says the Gemara, the paraklu. Afterwards, you redeem it, so he could eat it. Says the Gemara, v'dilma lav bikurim ninu. Maybe it's not bikurim. Now, bikurim, you don't have to give trumas and meisos. But maybe it's not really bikurim because you don't own the land, and then you're cheating by not giving truma and meisos. V'dilma lav bikurim ninu. It's complicated. Says the Gemara, you take off the truma and the ma'aser. But remember, you have to take off the truma and the ma'aser and give it to a kohen. So the Gemara says, Bishlam it truma gedayla yavlu l'kohen. Ma'aser sheni nami, the ma'aser sheni which has to be eaten in Yerushalayim, you could also give to a kohen. Yavlu l'kohen. In the 3rd and the 6th year when there's ma'aser on, you can give it to a kohen on it. But what about the Ma'aser Rishon? You have to give it to a Levi. Ela Ma'aser Rishon the Levi who? L'man Yovle. Says the Gemara, there's an opinion that when it says in the Torah Levi, it means Zarai Shel Levi, which includes a Kayin. To Yovle l'Kayin. And furthermore, the Levium were penalized. What happened is when Ezra went up to Eretz Yisrael, the Levium didn't want to go. And therefore Ezra penalized them that they don't get the Ma'aser Rishon, it should be given to the Kohen. K'Rabbalaz ben Azariah, the Tanya Truma Gedayla l'Kohen. Initially, Truma Gedayla was to the Kohen, Ma'aser Rishon l'Levi, Div Rebbe Kiva. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, I remember Ma'aser Rishon af l'kohen. We take out the af because, as we said, they were penalized. Ma'aser Rishon l'kohen. Says the Gemara, yeah, but there's yet another problem. Maybe it really is bikurim, because really even one tree is sold with the ground, or according to Rabbanim, 2 trees are sold with the ground. Then it's really bikurim. And you have to make the formula, and you're not making the formula. V'dilma bikurin ninu ubai kriya. It needs the formula. Says the Gemara, kriya loima keves. The kriya doesn't invalidate it. And you're right, maybe it needs a kriya, but the fact that you don't do the formula doesn't invalidate it from being bikurim. Now the Gemara is going to ask a question on this, but we'll save that for tomorrow night. Remember, tomorrow night and the whole week, Shir is at 8. And now we will do the Mishnah Yomis.